My mantra for 2025 is let it die. The void is the birthplace. And I have realized this year how much my tendency to cling on to things has caused me to be dragged because I did not let go. And I have realized that I don't need to do anything other than focus on quickening that transition of transmutation from the bad thing to creativity, from the awful thing that happened that you cannot stop ruminating about, whether it be, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's a friendship breakup. For me, one of my things is a friendship breakup. And just my relation to my outsiderness and outsiderhood, whatever, and the way I see myself in the world. But really it's clinging on to the broken shards of glass that are on the ground that I keep picking up to like assess the situation instead of just putting it into art, right? Because that void is what I guess I'm uncomfortable sitting in, but that is where the vortex is. That is where things are created. And it's like, progression happens in cycles, right? So when we are ruminating on things and when we're going back to things that like make us feel not good about ourselves, yeah, it's like something obviously you don't want to do. You want to be completely free of these cycles of like rumination and overthinking and anxiety and feeling low self-esteem for whatever reason. But I like to recognize that progression happens in cycles. So I need to give myself some permission sometimes to let myself revisit and just assess from a new way how I'm feeling about something or why. And I don't know, maybe it's like not good for me to do that, but I definitely be doing that. And YouTube facilitates me doing that. So yeah, I'm here to yap. Welcome. So, I have been doing a lot of thinking this year about myself in relation to community, to people, to finding new connections and things like that. And by the way, I am making more friends with women of color, and like since I've like set that intention, I think that is a good thing. And again, I think allowing myself to have a higher standard of friendship is a big like lesson for this year, and a higher standard of treatment, because what I realized is I have become very cool with seeing myself as an outsider who just happens to be in the room sometimes. And in that vein, I've become used to the you may not know me, but I know you dynamic, which again is also a tool of like an oppressed community in relation to the oppressed group, right? Like I think in a lot of situations, if you're a woman of color who is mostly around white women or white people, things about them that they haven't noticed about you, right? Because there's gaps in your experience that you're not always gonna communicate with them, but you notice, you know what I'm saying? It could depend on your environment, it could, whatever. But you become very adept and astute at reading your oppressor in all situations, right? The opposite is not true. Because with being on top comes an audacity to be unself-aware, right? And not just in like such an audacious way, but at a default level. Part of being the default group, whether it's a man, whether it's the white person, whether it's whatever combination of these things, there's things that I had like collected in my memory of situations of like little, not microaggressive towards me, but just slightly ignorant things that white girls that you are in your friend group say. On the surface, it's not like a harmful thing, it's just ignorant. Like I'll give an example, like I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about some sort of like system, some sort of like, I don't know if it was education, I don't know if it was within dance or art or industry or performance, probably something around there, and some sort of infrastructure that was unfair in some way. And I just remember homegirl being like, well, there's just got to be a better one then. Like we were talking about like how it was messed up in this way, whatever institution or whatever we were talking about, how it was messed up and broken down in these systemic ways. And she was like, well, there's got to be a better one then. Not we should make a better one, that there just is a good one, that there just should be a good one. And I was like, I mean, there isn't necessarily one that exists that is actually good for everyone. She was like, no, there's just gotta be a good one, gotta be a better one. And that is like just kind of an example of things that like I could read you to filth for that, but I don't when you're my friend, right? And I think that builds resentment in a way. See, when I say progression happens in cycles, is because I do get kind of deep with myself when I allow myself to ruminate. Oh, toxic. There is something to always being the one who has more to say, Scorpio rising, ding, 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 and not saying it, because it's not always necessary to use that particular tool. And like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, if you have been around white girls a lot in your life, you know that things come up where you're like, and this isn't always, again, there's levels to this shit, but I think with the particular friends that I did have like a friendship breakup with, there was a couple things where like, you know, if she's getting pursued by only men of color, she like makes it a personality trait. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, my thing is to date not white guys. We don't shut up. Sorry. I know you think it's like progressive and it like comes off. She thinks it comes off progressive and cool. And the rest of us who are maybe not white in the group kind of like are like, oh, like it hits your ear wrong, but you're not going to go off. One of the times that she brought that up, she was saying it like, oh, he says he's never been with a white girl before and he wants to try. And I think I remember being in an Uber and a bunch of us being like, whoa, okay, that's kind of weird. And she was like, no, like in a good way. And we were like, that's a more we can talk about this example, but things like not understanding that sometimes the proper institution does not exist and that sometimes things are unfair, specifically in systems, and to just, there's got to be a better one. Honestly, more of it is like, I don't have time for this today to explain the gap in your understanding that, yeah, sometimes you are just oppressed here and there is things that you just like, you know what I mean? And it's not to say, it's different than saying, oh, we're going to do something, because that's not what she said. It's well, there's got to be a better one. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes racism does prevail, you know what I'm saying? Or I remember one time my boyfriend at the time had some sort of like weird issue at work, and she just kept being like, tell him to get a lawyer, tell him to press charges, tell him to get a lawyer, tell him he needs to take this legal action, and not understanding that like a black man might not immediately want to take legal action, and that might not feel good to him in the same way that it feels really empowering to her. And I think that this to me goes in the file of, you don't know me, but I know you. And then when they tried to have that like comeuppance moment of like, gotcha, like being really judgmental to me in a way that made me cry, and I was not okay, and they left me there crying, whatever. I swear I've gotten over this somehow to some capacity. You wouldn't think it by this video. But I think about that feeling of being left there crying, obviously. I think about the feeling that I had when I said, well, I'm feeling othered, and her saying, well, you're other, in this instance, Kira, you're othering yourself. I remember the way that hit my brain. And these things, then I look at my file and I'm like, oh, well, I never even used any of this against you. And you don't even actually pay attention enough to my differentiated experience to validate that it is different. It sort of in a way of like, I think that sometimes white people have the audacity to think that they understand all angles of experiences and feelings in people, and like, oh, I've seen this before, so this must be this, without understanding that things can hit us in a whole different way. And that I didn't come to you about people, calling me a half-breed monkey on the internet after I told you that I was getting hate online and you didn't ask any more questions. I didn't bother you with the details that were racism because I'm used to you not really knowing me. Like, yes, in association, but when it comes to the deep, real stuff, I felt like the resentment of there's actually so many things that I could have read you to filth on and judged you on more than I did. But it's crazy that the small bit that you know about me, you maneuvered it into this weird lie and projection and fabrication that you gossiped about for months while avoiding me and like really not really knowing me or not really knowing what I was going through, which I was cool to go through it alone because I'm used to that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm used to people backing off when they don't understand and being like, oh, she seems upset. Weird. You know what I mean? And I let you do that, but I did not think you were gonna come back with judgment of things you don't understand. Because you don't understand. You don't understand what it means to be visible, black, biracial on the internet. That's a different thing than being a white woman in the world. More than talking about the visibility, but talking about the racialized tone that came with it. I wouldn't put that on you as an expectation, specifically when you didn't seem to care to ask very much, right? Because I'm cool if people are distant and not knowing me, as long as they don't use the shit that they don't understand against me. So then to see that be weaponized in a way that was like, whoa, you didn't even let me get my bearings here. This isn't what friendship means to me, because there's been so many times. Okay, the other thing was like, I realized like this particular couple of people very much associated with people who they seem to forgive more than me about everything. It's like, this guy is, he's an addict who owes this person money, but we forgive all these people. But then Kira is sad a couple days and we must have a hissy fit. When you see forgiveness of like men and other people from your friends, like they forgive the men in their life who are doing more egregious acts than they forgive you, and how that hurts, that's a whole other concept. But just that was just a little bit of my processing of like why I think it's okay to focus on just letting go this next year, creating space to be my authentic self, having higher standards and boundaries for friendship, and maybe not letting myself be so much against the wall in regards to letting people in my friendships misunderstand me. I guess that's something you can't really do, because I think I'm used to letting people misunderstand me a bit, but then this got to a head where it became they gathered and had pitchforks, not actually, but you know what I'm saying. It felt that way. I think that I do want to be known in friendship. So, but I can be cool in the void when I am not feeling that certain amount of respect in like relationships, whatever. You have to be cool to back off and be okay with the void. You know what I'm saying? And just be really intentional about your friendships and relationships, and make sure that everybody who is in your life is fulfilling your standards and your expectations of what it means to act like they know you, act with compassion and without judgment first, and so much force behind misunderstanding you before even giving you the attention that you deserve. Because a lot of people are judging without paying attention, and that's an important thing. Because some of us who are less judgmental actually are really crazy observant. So I think, I don't know, something I've noticed this year, not just for me, but in other people's things happening, the judgments are coming from people who maybe aren't the most self-aware. So that's what I've noticed. But let me know what your 2025 mantras are in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye.